Right, okay, so the first main item on the agenda is cybercrime, or an update around cybercrime. And just to give a little bit of context, I mean, obviously cybercrime is something that is fairly regularly in the news these days. It's a crime that doesn't have boundaries as such, because it can be committed from literally anywhere through online and technology. With regards to the police and crime plan, it is a priority within there. Clearly, I am represented on various boards, the West Yorkshire Cyber Project Board, for example, and the Independent Advisory Board. We do run a number of joint campaigns with West Yorkshire Police, raising awareness of some of the issues that arise through scams and things of that nature. Through the Safer Communities Fund, we have funded 6 projects totaling over £27,000 in different areas of West Yorkshire, and we've recently supported the Safer Internet Day, which is something that is a global initiative, and we also work very closely with our young people, and we are currently promoting a competition in years 7, 8 and 9 in various schools around designing a cyber prevention resource. So that gives a little bit of background before I now ask you to give an update on the West Yorkshire Police report. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. As the Chief Officer Lead for Cybercrime, the Chief Constable has asked me to provide you with an update in terms of the continued progress the force has made in tackling cyber-enabled and cyber-dependent crime. And the Chief's asked me to touch on us understanding the threat, working with partnerships and the community to protect and prevent criminality, whilst also continuing to investigate those who offend. And I'm also going to speak a little bit about performance as well. There's one issue just to cite you on in terms of the vast turnover of staff that we have going through our force cybercrime team, which I'll touch on a little bit later on. So firstly then, just in terms of the priorities around cyber, as you're aware, it features heavily within the strategic policing requirement. It's certainly one of the priorities there, and as you've already mentioned, it's reflected in the police and crime plan, but also it's one of the priorities in the West Yorkshire Police Strategic Assessment, and also features in the Attack Criminality Strategic Plan. Within those plans, clearly there's a governance structure to deliver the strategic objectives, which sits at the top with me chairing the cyber board as a strategic lead, tactical and operation level boards, which help deliver the plans across each and every one of the districts across West Yorkshire. Certainly West Yorkshire continues to be leading nationally around many areas of cyber through innovative work such as the Independent Advisory Group and cyber prevention activities. And again, cyber-enabled and dependent offending continues to increase steadily, but in line with national levels. And just on that note, during 2016, there were a total of 3,087 cyber offences recorded in West Yorkshire, which is an 8.4% increase compared with the previous year, 2015. Now, cyber-dependent crimes, and obviously their offences committed under the Computer Misuse Act, such as hacking and distributed denial of service, they increased by 62% in 2016. And again, there's been a further 30% increase in the first 6 months of 2017. It's worthy of note that over half of all recorded cybercrime in 2016 was classified as violence without injury. And that actually captures offences such as harassment and unwanted contact, with 2,034 reported crimes, and that's a 40% increase on 2015. So that's your traditional crimes which are being committed through a changing methodology, modus operandi, using the internet and different social media platforms to harass and have unwanted contact with individuals. It's also worthy of note that 70.6% of the victims were in fact female. In 2016, 591 cyber flagged offences involved sexual offending, and the majority involving indecent images of children. And as you know, we've run national campaigns around that particular theme and undertaken considerable enforcement across West Yorkshire and the country, coordinated by the National Crime Agency. In addition to those statistics, fraud was the most common theme, or third in place, the common theme, with 462 offences flagged in 2016. And again, social media, Facebook was a popular medium to perpetrate those offences through. Unsurprising that Leeds had the largest number of offences, obviously being one of our biggest districts, recorded per 1,000 population, but Calderdale had the highest rate of cybercrime in the force, which is quite unusual, but we'll touch on that a little bit later. As I mentioned, West Yorkshire Police have seen a continued rise in reported cyber-enabled independent crime in this 6-month period, compared with the previous 6 months. And again, you know, in terms of fraud, 6,777 victims were identified in West Yorkshire, and as a consequence, they've suffered losses collectively of £45,974,269, so that's quite substantial. And again, falling out of the fraud statistics, certainly within West Yorkshire, online shopping and auction fraud and computer software frauds were the highest in terms of those statistics. Within the report, Commissioner, you've got the action fraud data, and that's generated nationally, but there are some inequities within that data, and it's not to be relied upon. I mentioned earlier around governance. The cyber governance is managed through the Cyber Strategic Board, which I personally chair. That meets every 3 months. And through that, I've ensured that West Yorkshire Police remained 100% compliant with the College of Policing's cybercrime framework. A cyber tactical board meets monthly with district cyber leads for each of the districts attending. Each district then has a cyber board meeting with frontline officers and staff working to district action plans. And this structure ensures the effective delivery of the changes that we need within districts to minimise the risk of cybercrime to the public that we actually serve. I mentioned earlier around the cybercrime team, and there's been some significant staffing changes. Currently we have 5 vacancies, they're cyber officers. So there's a very small workforce, and you know, we are currently recruiting, and we've received over 30 applicants for those 5 posts. So I'm hopeful we'll be able to mitigate that risk and get some individuals in place. The turnover is a consequence of nothing in terms of anything West Yorkshire's done. There's just greater opportunities within the private sector. So once we've skilled them up, unfortunately we're hemorrhaging them, and they're going into industry where they can have greater career progression. Now, in terms of digital media investigators, we've invested heavily in the training programme, and we've got 38 DMIs within the force, and they're distributed between the 5 districts and departments just to make sure that we can actually cover the threat across the piece. The cybercrime team have actually delivered a regional digital media investigator day at Cargate during the course of August, where we had eminent speakers from across industry, academia, and also the College of Policing, talking on the subject of cybercrime. And we've continued to invest in training around cybercrime, because clearly it's a growing threat, from everything in terms of new recruits, investigating officers to detectives, but also to our Safer Schools officers as well. West Yorkshire continues to focus heavily on the prevention of cybercrime. We've got a cybercrime prevention group that meet monthly, and with the support of the cybercrime team, they continue to work with districts to drive prevention work. We've pioneered a scouting badge for crime prevention, of which 50% focuses on cyber, and this requires thousands of young pupils across the scouting network to engage with their parents and complete activities to gain knowledge and understanding of risks associated with cybercrime. We've also redesigned and refreshed the content of our public-facing website, created new guidance for the public and also some nudge trials just to raise awareness around cybercrime. And we've also aligned all of the Safer Schools presentations focused on cybercrime so that age-relevant corporate inputs are delivered to the right audience. And again, as you're aware, Commissioner, in conjunction with your office, we've just recently launched a cyber competition for 11 to 14-year-olds via the Education Network, and each and every secondary school in West Yorkshire received an invite to participate in the event, and we've got around 1,400 schools that are currently participating. And that's for pupils to research and identify a particular cyber problem, and then also provide some solutions around how it can be prevented. The district's highlights then, you mentioned in your opening around the Safer Internet Day, well, all the districts participated with that. Bradford District, they developed a district cybercrime team made up of PCSOs who actually go into primary schools, and they've had notable success in terms of raising awareness. Kirklees officers have worked with Huddersfield University around a drama initiative with undergraduates to develop a cyber-themed play focusing on the risks that young people face. Wakefield continue to hold successful engagement events in key locations on a regular basis with partners such as the NSPCC, O2, Barclays Digital Equals, and Leeds District through their crime prevention officers have delivered crime prevention advice to businesses through the established networks. And lastly, Calderdale, they continue to develop inputs with young people across schools to great effect. From a regional perspective, we've taken the lead in forming a regional campaign group with representation from each of the four forces within the Yorkshire and Humber region. I mentioned around the cybercrime team. I think it's actually ripe for a review. So going forward, the cybercrime team will be reviewed in terms of its structure, the processes, and what it delivers from a force perspective, a regional perspective, but also locally. There'll be a real focus around training, resourcing and strategic direction. From a prevention perspective, the Force Cyber School Survey is due to close shortly, and this will provide a wealth of learning for us and partners around activities of young people online, so we can be very much focused around our prevention activity. And we're also developing a training modular plan to ensure staff remain skilled in dealing with cyber offending, and that will be made relevant, pertinent to the individual's position and role within the organisation. The strategic risks around cyber then, clearly the demand's increasing, not only in West Yorkshire but also across the UK, and we all need to be very much mindful of making sure we've got resources in place to mitigate against this rising challenge, against the backdrop of obviously the continuing austerity measures. And again, just to conclude around this piece, the cybercrime team continue to work with a number of organisations within the cyber advisory group, including a diverse range of charities. Again, a real focus on prevention messages and also delivering the most appropriate way forward for the communities. So, in summary, Commission, that's the update in terms of cyber. In fact, to take any questions that you might have.
Right, thank you, Russ, for that. Yeah, so I do have a few questions. So, on page 2, it talks about females aged between 18 to 34 are identified as being particularly at risk of malicious communication offences. Could you just say what work is ongoing to try and address that?
Certainly, the data included in this report is quite recent, so we're still undertaking an analysis of that particular data. However, our Central Safeguarding Unit, we've been working with key stakeholders, particularly around stalking and harassment, and if you remember, I highlighted the fact that we've seen a significant rise when we look at the cyber-enabled crime falling out of those statistics. So we've reviewed our force policy, published a new force policy around stalking and harassment. It's been simplified for frontline officers to certainly understand with some guidance to maximise opportunities around providing outcomes for victims. And we've also developed a mandatory e-learning package around stalking and harassment, and I can report that 95% of our personnel have completed that actual e-learning package. And again, we've focused on the dash forms with a view to undertaking risk assessments of victims who are subject of stalking and harassment, and we're currently auditing the offences and making sure that we identify learning opportunities falling out of that. And again, that data will be shared very shortly. Stalking and harassment has been a subject of national focus and will feature on all the local safeguarding boards. The information contained within the report will also be used to aid the discussions within those particular boards. And again, the force is a mature prevention campaign for domestic abuse, of which stalking and harassment forms part.
Yeah, I mean that's good to hear. So the as you said, the violence without injury categories accounts for half of those reports. So anything to really address that, so that the harassment sort of stalking will be welcome. So look forward to hearing how that goes. Page 3, the diagram, and you mentioned about Leeds obviously being the largest district, having the largest volume of offences, but it was a little surprising that Calderdale had the highest rate. And it was really just to understand what might sit behind that.
That is an anomaly, and for me, what we've actually undertaken within West Yorkshire is a flagging process to identify crimes and incidents which are perpetrated using, obviously, cyber. So, as a consequence, the indication is, or the early indication is, that Calderdale District are making better use of the flagging system. So that throws up that anomaly. So clearly they've been early adopters of the flagging. We have got issues with regards to the confidence rates of cybercrime in terms of the inaccuracy of flagging, but it's something that we're progressing and working through the organisation. So ultimately that should rectify those fundamental issues.
So when we say flagging, this is the internal mechanism by which these incidents are flagged on the police system.
Yeah. I mean, we're accurately recording the crimes on our primary intelligence system, but then to define whether they're a cyber-enabled crime or pure cyber crime, we attach a flag. It's a recent process that we've adopted, so there is a bit of catch-up being played out at this moment in time, and it does appear on the face of it that Calderdale have been progressing in that direction from the force more regularly than others. Okay, so
that's under review in terms of the other districts as well.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Page 5, and you've touched on this a couple of times, Russ, around the vacancies that are currently apparent in the cybercrime team. So there's a few sort of follow-ups to that. One is, what can be done to put in place things to retain these specialisms around those types of staff members, and what's being done to provide the resilience whilst the team is being rebuilt, if you like.
Sure. Well, just unpacking those then. The cybercrime team are working with our Human Resources Department to look at putting conditions within staff contracts. So obviously we're investing in terms of training and experience, and clearly we try and build something into their contracts which maximise the opportunity to retain them. If they leave beyond that agreement, or before that agreement I should say, then there'll be a requirement for them to pay back their fees around the training. We've completed a debrief around those leaving the organisation to see whether there are any particular issues and rationale. But reassuringly, these were not financial, but simply around career opportunities that couldn't be offered by the police. And again, we've reviewed this, and this is developing requirements in the form of a COP paper to be submitted with a view to changing the staffing structure. So, this will provide a hybrid of civilian specialists, but also police officers, warranted, digital media investigators. And again, this should reduce the impact of staffing losses and provide an enhanced level of service for communities across West Yorkshire. And whilst this process is ongoing, you mentioned about resilience, the teams continue to provide an advisory service on enabled and pure offending whilst directing staff in need of more hands-on support to the networks of our digital media investigators, and they can, as I mentioned earlier, disperse tactically across the force. And again, this minimises the impact of the reduced capacity of the team.
And that leads on to the review of the team, as you've said, which appears to be timely. And am I right in saying this is in its early stages? And have you got a time frame for?
Very much so. And by the time we've looked at the structures of processes, person specs, job specifications, we're probably talking 3 months.
Just to make you aware, last week the Chief Constable and I attended a regional meeting of the 7 police and crime commissioners and 7 chief constables in Yorkshire, Humber and the North East. And cybercrime, I think I'm right in saying, was the one area that everybody seemed to be up for doing much more collaborative work on. So I think from that meeting, the chief in Cleveland has agreed to lead on that piece of work, but obviously I hope we will be part and parcel of that, given the work that we've already done here in West Yorkshire, and making sure that whatever is worked upon regionally fits with the direction that we would like to go in.
Sure, I'm aware of the event and I know Cleveland's hosting it, but just for some reassurance, you know, we do need regional in terms of cyber, but also obviously with West Yorkshire being quite a large force, and we will be intrinsically linked into that process and represented within that conference when it takes place.
Yeah, so I think the intention is to take forward some proposals and some strands of work with a view to potentially looking at how we might resource some of that collectively going forward, but it's absolutely something we need to be at the heart of, really.
Sure, there's some opportunities there for us, I'm sure.
Okay. And just to finish on that note, I mean, I do appreciate that a lot of good work has been undertaken, and I think that we are very well placed as one of the leading forces and areas in tackling this issue. But as we know, things move on very quickly in this world with the technology and the types of crimes that are committed. But it's just to say thank you to you and all your colleagues for the work that has been done to date.
Thank you.
Okay.